don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing this game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. So.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Culture. My name is Brian. No, I'm not confused about my gender. And I'm here with John, the problematic white guy. What's up, John? How you doing?
Oh, I'm awesome as always. And if you're, been with me for the last 2 hours and willing to do the next 2 hours with me, thank you again. I'm now actually fully reality-based, and through the will of the fans, I'm now on YouTube like 7 times a week, actually 8 times a week, and plus any kind of new stuff that's happening. This all happened basically while you were away in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went from just kind of like being like your co-host without too much going on to like now it's just like, oh, I'm gonna have to like do this quick little transition between shows, and yeah, it's fun.
All right. Well.
So.
Yeah, exciting times. Can't complain. That's right. And hello to all of you. I'm gonna ask. We got a great show today. We got lots to go through. I'm gonna ask you guys, please hit that like button. Help us reach more people, because I think this is kind of a lot of this stuff is kind of crucial information that that people that are interested in the health of our culture should know about, because our culture is very sick right now, and we have to be able to diagnose the problem effectively so that we can come up with a cure, or at least some way of treating this ailment that is our sick culture. But anyway, so yeah, please hit that like button right now for me, and I really appreciate that. Jojo is not here because my wife is home today, so he always hangs out with her when he prefers her over me. Yeah, when she's here, he's with her. But Jojo is here in spirit, and he is doing well, and I'm glad that you guys are concerned. All right, anyway, so let's get into the stories. We're going to start off with a couple of smaller ones that I wanted to just touch on briefly that shouldn't surprise anybody. And by the way, all of these are archive linked because it saves my computer memory by a tremendous amount when I do that, which means I'm less likely to experience crashes. So the first thing we got
have me bought out.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't mind giving clicks to That Park Place and Smash JT and Fandom Pulse because I think that they do good work. But, I just, in the interest of saving my computer from being bombarded with ads, because that's what they have to do to maintain their websites, I archive link them, and it saves my computer, and it also is less frustrating for, people that are watching. So
yeah, far more presentable too. So
yeah. So, okay, first we got this story from That Park Place. Let me, open it up a little bit, make it a little bit bigger if I can. Can I do that?
That's what she said.
Hey. All right. No, I guess not. We'll just do it like this. All right. So, exclusive, Star Wars author and Thrawn creator Timothy Zahn hopes Disney higher-ups don't ruin his creation. Well, I got news for you.
Too late. Right. Perhaps you should have thought about this 2 years ago.
So I don't know if you guys know, if you're not Star Wars fans, then this might not matter to you at all. But if you are, and you are aware of the sort of novels, this is like the Star Wars novels, or the Star Wars books, I guess they call it the expanded universe back in the day. And there was a character in the expanded universe named Thrawn who was a favorite of fans of that material because of how well written he was, and how much of a challenge, or how much of a let's say a force he presented to the heroes in the story.
Mhm.
And they, in an act of desperation, basically, we started to see the Thrawn character reemerge in Disney content since Disney bought the product. I think it started with
Right.
Rebels, but from what I heard, he wasn't bad on that show, that animated series called Star Wars Rebels. But then he made an appearance on Ahsoka, pictured here, and
Yeah.
it was to create hype because there wasn't a lot of hype around any of the Disney TV shows after The Mandalorian kind of jumped the shark. And yeah, so now they're gonna try throwing Admiral Thrawn at the content down the pipe. And
Was
the
it really
writer,
Admiral Thrawn or Elon Thrawn?
he
Is
does look
how I-
Elon-y, doesn't he? He does.
Yeah,
He looks like Elon
yeah.
Musk. But now I guess so. I mean, maybe now more than ever, considering Elon has basically thrown his lot in with deplorables and Nazis. So it seems appropriate. So anyway, so yeah, Timothy Zahn, basically in brief, he expressed to reporters that while a consultation credit would be wonderful, his dream for Lucasfilm is to offer him a cameo role in one of the movies. And then he said this: "I trust Filoni to get it right. He's read the books. He cares about the characters. He gets it. I think he'll do it right. We'll see how they do with the next Ahsoka season. There's a good group over there at Lucasfilm," he added. "Pablo Hidalgo comes at it from a game's point of view, but he knows the characters too. I just hope the Disney higher-ups don't ruin it." When we reminded Mr. Zahn that there aren't many people above Dave Filoni anymore at Lucasfilm and Disney, he smiled and replied, "And that's a good thing." But I hate to tell you this, but I don't have hopes for this at all. So I want to know what
Yeah.
you think. What do you think?
I mean, if it's attached to Disney, no, it's not even going to be worth. It's just that I just don't. I thankfully, over the course of the last 10 years of Disney owning Star Wars, I no longer care about it in any way, shape, or form. There's no way that it can hurt me. And I was one of the many people who argued that we should get more seasons of The Acolyte because I find it to be one of the most, just unplanned comedies and comedy of errors series that has come out in quite some time. I laughed so hard during The Acolyte because it was just desperately childish and like its attempt to like pretend like it was smart and all this kind of stuff. And like I couldn't help but laugh. Far better than Agony All Along, which I've seen one episode of and have just completely given up any kind of unless Aubrey Plaza is wet, soaking in honey and completely naked, I will not watch, and I will only watch that scene.
I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for that to happen either.
Yeah.
Anything that men like is not allowed. So just
Exactly.
wait for whatever Sydney Sweeney's new project is, and that will probably have to do. So
Yeah.
I mean, I have zero enthusiasm. I think that anyone at this point who was still like hoping that Disney is going to turn the Star Wars Titanic away from it after it's already hit the iceberg is just engaging in culture junkie cope, and you just need to let it go and be okay with it. I was just talking to my wife today, and she was asking me questions because there was like this meme she saw that showed all of these various film franchises, and I guess they were rated on the quality based on which sequel. And she said to me, "Which Star Wars do you think is the best?" Because she wanted to see if my views reflected the graph. And I was like,
Right.
"Of which ones?" And she was like, "Of the original 3." And I said, "Oh, Empire Strikes Back."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, well, that's correct because according to the thing, that's what everybody leaves." So, and then she was like, "Well, what about, like the Terminator movies?" And I was like, "Well, you mean the first 3? Because there's been like a bunch." And she was like, "Yeah." And I was
Right.
like, well, that's tough, but Terminator 2, I'll go with Terminator 2. And she was like, "Yeah, but it's only by a little bit, because Terminator 1 is still great,
Right.
So as an example,
I'll even
like,
argue
so
for
annoying
Terminator
for it.
3 having
I-
one
you
of
know
the
what?
best endings in a
I
movie
didn't-
series because it
I
had the
agree.
balls to actually, do the thing.
Yeah, I didn't hate Terminator 3. I didn't hate it. I
Yeah.
think that it's got some issues, but it's not a bad movie in my
Yeah,
opinion.
no.
I
Nick
think
Stahl's
it's
great.
Yeah, I
Claire
like
Danes
Nick
is
Stahl as
great.
an actor. I like Claire Danes too. Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we, and of the 3 Indiana Jones movies, just the first 3.
Hmm.
Don't include the aliens and all
Right,
that.
right. Yeah, oh, of course not. No, of course not. I'm gonna have to go. Jeez. I mean, like, depending on the day,
It's
I'm either
tough.
gonna say Raiders or Temple of Doom.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Crusades.
that's
Yeah,
funny. You don't. I like Crusade. That was my favorite. But I
well,
said Raiders is really
Crusades all
good.
right, but
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Crusade is good. Like, it's second to Back to the Future, kind of. Well, not necessarily second, but it's definitely in that honorable mention spot of, like, things that were just like perfect trilogies.
Yeah.
But I think that, as much as I like Sean Connery, like, I think that the focus taking off of Indy and kind of like, kind of like establishing, the relationship with his dad, it kind of, wasn't as good as what you got with,
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then when he turned around in Temple of Doom and, he's there, just like the dynamic he has, with Short Round and God, I can't say her name as the main character, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, it was just a completely different kind of vibe, and like, it was just, it was good stuff, no matter what.
No,
Like,
I wouldn't. Yeah, I like all 3 movies. I think they're all great.
mhm.
And if you want to watch them in order, I think you have to watch Temple of Doom first. If you in chronological order, because
Yeah,
from what I understand, Temple of Doom predated Raiders. So, but yeah, they're all good. But anyway, so having said that, I'm okay with those being where they are. I can always go back and watch the original Star Wars trilogy, even the prequels, which I still like, and just pretend like none of the other stuff exists. So I'm just asking, if you're a big fan of Star Wars and you're disappointed in what's happened with Disney, you don't have to give a shit about what they do.
Yeah.
So because
No.
it's like, well, I'm sorry, but Timothy Zahn is probably going to be disappointed with what they do with Thrawn. And
Yeah,
he's
it's
probably
like
gonna
Star
wonder
Wars brought to you
where
by
it came
Wish
from.
or Team.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Timu. We have Star Wars at home. Star Wars at home. All right. Anyway, moving on. We're just keeping these are brief before we get into some of the deeper stuff. So now we're going to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about Silent Hill remake. So my friend and a friend of the channel over at Honey Badger Radio, Max Darrett, he does a lot of really good deep dives into video games. I found him when he did a great deep dive into Metal Gear Solid 2, specifically talking about the ending, which left a lot of people kind of gobsmacked, like, what the hell is this about? And he like explained all of it really well. And after that, I reached out to him. I was like, dude, I want to have you on my show. And we talked, and he was on HBR for a while, and now he's off doing his own stuff on his own channel. He's doing really well, and he got to play Silent Hill 2 Remake, which is a game he was very concerned about. Like, he was worried they were gonna like screw it all up because of all these modern, things that people do to like alter the content to update it for modern audiences and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And that's exactly what happened.
And I think that's what happened, but I haven't heard a lot about it. I mean, but Max is doing a playthrough on his channel. So look up Max Darrett, Derrat. He's got like a Simpsons looking avatar. And yeah, I would check him out if you're curious about that. But this isn't about the game Silent Hill 2. This is about the consultant. So these are the people that will kill your sales, and this is primarily the only reason why I have no interest in supporting a remake of Silent Hill 2, despite the fact that Silent Hill 2 was probably one of the most groundbreaking video games like ever made,
Right.
just based on the story and stuff. And of course, these people, they can't let an opportunity pass them by to try to claim that this game is acting on the right side of history for them. So they jump in and they want to be a part of it so that they can essentially get some, what's the word I'm looking for? Steal some valor. Yeah. So we got this guy named Jacob Geller. He put out an announcement. I consulted on the Silent Hill remake. I had a really great experience working with the team. Because of this, I won't really be talking about the game publicly. Have fun figuring out your own takes. And he works for a company called Hit Detection. Hit Detection has ties to Sweet Baby Inc. Okay.
Yep.
And
I was gonna say it's not the first time I've heard that name this year.
No, we went through. Yes, we've talked about Hit Detection, and they're definitely part of that. So, and in a post that he made, in 2019, somebody named Bijan said, I'm curious, what's the dumbest idea you have that you nevertheless believe will, if implemented, make the world a better place? And Jacob Geller said, no gamers. So obviously he hates gamers despite the fact that he works at a gaming company as a consultant. Here is also him making a comment on let's see, about something that was shared on Twitter regarding a couple of Japanese developers who, Japanese developers are kind of a different animal. I mean, at least for now, right? But they're getting feminism over there. Don't get it twisted. They're done too. They're gonna be cooked. They're just a little bit behind us. So somebody said, Yoko, I was inspired by 9/11 to make Nier, Taro and Hideo. Hi, I made Metal Gear. Kojima, not being political, is one of the funniest takes I tend to see really, really weirdly often by my moron weebs. And Jacob Geller responded to that and said, honestly, the fact that gamers don't think of Taro and Kojima as political totally fits. Politics in games means anything about race or gender and nothing else. So he's trying to basically like give it to the gamers, right?
Right.
But there's like the guy from Tekken is here. I forget his name, but he's in the upper, like I'm mousing over it. He's in the upper left corner.
Yep.
And that was specifically in response to people complaining about some of the sexualized women in Tekken, and they said that they demanded that he delete them. And he said, if you touch my game, I'll delete you. And he showed a picture of him with an AK-47.
Indeed.
So, like, don't mess
based.
with him. Yeah, very based.
Ultra based. Yeah.
And here's another hot take from this guy, this consultant. Kotaku says NPR, that's NPR is the National Public Radio Network, which is basically just like a commie state-funded left-wing outlet of trash. And it says NPR is very worried that gaming is going to turn kids into Nazis. And Jacob Geller responds to this ridiculous claim by saying, I totally understand the defensive response to our medium, but it's not at all inaccurate to say that far-right groups are trying to recruit gamers. Much of today's alt-right grew out of Gamergate, and he doesn't even have the balls to say Gamergate. He puts asterisks in there. Okay. Yeah, it's Harada. Thank you, R2Lee2. Appreciate that.
Right.
Much of today's alt-right grew out of Gamergate and its sympathizers, and organizers like Bannon and Milo preyed on those groups. So this guy is basically a woke, like he's got TDS, he's possessed by the woke mind virus, and I think that's cause enough in my mind not to support Silent Hill 2 remake, despite whatever I'm waiting to see what things he changed, because like if he's a consultant on the game, even though the game already exists and the story and the script and everything is already there, the only reason why there would be a need for a consultant is if they were going to change things. So I want to know what they changed. Anyway, what do you think?
They took out the fog for one thing, which is actually a character in the story because, like, he's caught in the haze of his own delusion. Like, there's actually like something there about because Silent Hill's not a place; it's a state of being, it's a state of mind, it's purgatory. And so, like all this stuff that they've done, like they just made it into like a whole bunch of frumpy cunts and all this kind of stuff that like quite literally lost the plot of the story. Because, the game is supposed to be about sexual frustration and deviance and all this kind of stuff. He's a killer! Not to break anybody's heart and, spoil the game for you, but, it's been around for, 15, 20 years now. So, if you haven't heard about what Silent Hill 2 is at this point in time, it's only one of the most seminal stories that they ever put out on the PS2. For these people who say things like, oh, well, it's all political and this and that, Silent Hill 2 is probably more integral to its story than even Metal Gear is. Because here's the thing about Metal Gear. I love Metal Gear. I love the entire series. My favorite game in the world, if I could only play one, is Death Stranding. I am fully on the Hideo Kojima, bandwagon. But here's the great thing about Hideo Kojima's games. They're very pretentious, and you don't have to pay attention to one bit of the story to actually have a good time. because the mechanics are solid and fundamental and sound. And he learned how to like, you know, work with limitation. And then, you know, like I think I've said on here before, it's like when you do weight training, you have to learn your form first and then you stack weight. But the thing that's fundamental to Metal Gear has always been good gameplay dynamics. And so even if that's all you're interested in, you have a really solid game of gameplay dynamics. And then you can just kind of like not even give two shits about the story. I have plenty of people in my life who I've tried to talk to about the inner workings of it all. And they're just like, yeah, I don't really care. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool. You know, they got your money, they did the thing, and you know, and that's all it has to be. And so like these people are completely losing the plot of what Silent Hill is, because it is far more narrative driven.
Well, I think
in the way that it
I
works.
don't think they're stupid. I think they know, and they're changing it to fit something that they prefer. So that's what I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that it's not about, oh, you know, they're too dumb or they're crazy or they're irrational. No, I think that they know because like it's not like Silent Hill 2 hasn't been discussed.
Well,
I think that they want to alter.
Yeah,
so
I suppose stupid is the wrong
no,
word.
no, I'm
insidious.
Yes, I think that's right. Look, I think that the purpose of it is to change it to fit their, you know, like what they think the story should be about. That's why there's already like a leaked image from the game that I saw where Mary in Silent Hill, who is essentially a manifestation of the main character's sexual desire, like what he wasn't getting from his wife, okay? And they changed how she's dressed in the game.
Yeah, she's a frumpy cunt now.
She's like, yeah, which kind of like defeats the purpose of the whole thing. But there's a scene where she's showing, you know, she's showing you the outfit from the original version of the game and saying, would you prefer I wore this? Now, I haven't seen the video clip, but that's obviously them throwing this in your face and saying, we're not doing the thing that you liked before. We're doing something different. And it's just another example of how these people, they want to alter the canon, to rewrite the canon from your games, from your movies, from your stories that you have loved. They don't care about them. They know that you love them, and they do this on purpose. And I'm going to get to something at the end. I want to talk about Joker 2, the Joker 2 movie. And this is like proof of what I'm talking about, like why they did that. So, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, I'm sorry. You want to finish your point?
Well, you know, I mean, like I said, this game, they just literally lost the plot of the whole point of what the narrative is even about, because it is about somebody who is, you know, unwilling to take accountability. And that's the thing that brings them to Silent Hill. And so you play as the villain during the entirety of the game. And so you're at odds with yourself. And that's ultimately what it ends up being about, is that, you know, like to take accountability, you don't, there's no happy ending in Silent Hill 2. You know, there's no way to undo what James has done.
Yeah, I think there's one that is just kind of like, it's not happy, but it's an ending.
Right. But it's not canon. It's an ending. Yeah, it's an ending that's kind of like it kind of like you know, lampshades the story and just kind of, you know, it's like it's fun and funny. I think it's like they have the alien ending.
I don't mean the one with the alien or the one with the dog. I mean, there's one where you leave with the girl. The little girl.
Oh yeah. But even that's just kind of like, you know, another projection of James' deluded mind. Yeah. So, you know, it's like once he actually takes accountability, it's, oh, I earned this. This is my penance, and you know, and so like that's what I'm saying is like this is a game that should be allowed to speak for itself, because if you want to sit here and tell men how misogynistic they are and this and that, then you kind of have to like go through that story to see, like, you know, somebody who is so misogynistic that he basically like, you know, like starves his wife to death and all that kind of stuff because he's just like, he can't deal with the fact that she's sick, you know, and then he suffocates her, you know. So yeah, this thing is just completely lost. And if I ruined the experience for you playing the game, well, I probably didn't ruin it. If anything, I've just, the game, you know, sped up the story.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next story, but let us know what you guys think about this consultant's commentary on gamers. Why is he even working in the industry? What do you think about that? Okay, we're going to move on. I look forward to seeing your comments, and welcome to all the new people that came, I assume, from the raid, from the other channel. So welcome to the show, guys.
I would imagine.
Please consider subscribing.
So,
yeah. All right, let's move on to the next thing. So,
definitely.
What the hell happened to Halo? And does it surprise anyone? So, the Once Mighty Halo series has was made by the studio was called 343, right? And they were putting
Yeah,
out
they changed their name.
yeah. And from what I heard, everything after Halo Reach was trash. Okay? Nobody was really
Yeah.
enjoying it. And so in an effort to try to make things right, they're going to not fire people, not necessarily like put their entire engine through an overhaul. They're just going to rebrand and they're going to go with Unreal. Now, I guess in the past they had their own engine. You know, a lot of larger studios usually use their own in-house engines or they build one from the ground up. But these guys are just gonna jump on
Right.
the Unreal bandwagon, and I think it's to save them money. But I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this story?
Well, I would say that it's definitely to save them money, and also they lack the talent, skill, and ability, and the wherewithal to actually correct the engine that 343 brought to the dance, so to speak. When they, when the property got maneuvered from Bungie to 343. I'm not even like the world's biggest Halo fan at all, but for me, like, this is kind of like me in Star Wars. It's like you can't really hurt my heart with this. If anything, I just kind of like I find it funny that it's going down the same kind of pathway of like like having a very ethnically like diverse kind of I don't know if you watched the video that I sent you that's
Yeah, I did.
the YouTube.
We're
kind
gonna
of
get to
announcement.
that, but
But majority of the people that
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so it's like majority women being involved in kind of like the whole setup and this and that. And it's just like this just speaks to me of another kind of design house that's just trying to do paint by numbers and get people that they can kind of like get to facilitate a like a making of a widget, if you will. But they don't want actual technical engineers or anything like that that actually have like the capacity to do something unique and interesting. So using Unreal 5. To me, just it's just an easy way out. And like, is it going to be better than what they had with their own 343 based engine? Probably, but that reflects more on how bad 343 Industries was as a development house, to the point that they do this trash, where they think that changing the name on the outside somehow changes like the development on the inside, and it won't. This is transitioning. And all that what that word means in this modern day and time is loaded with.
Yeah. And let's look at some of the people who worked on this project. So here's how and this kind of goes back to like the thing that Razor Fist always says, and I think I agree with this. It's not really go get woke, go broke. It's go broke, so you start running out of money. You say, oh shit, like people don't like our product. So then you get woke in order to try to address it. Like, oh look, we're progressive, you should support our product, and ultimately croak. And
right, we're risk averse.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, exactly. So we're in the go woke stage, which is stage 2, where you start virtue signaling about pride for a fucking science fiction like shoot 'em up game featuring what I guess was probably the most like masculine character in gaming for a while. Master Chief, like this whole franchise is very popular, but my wife is a big fan of Halo. She has nothing but fond memories of playing, Halo 2 multiplayer like competitive mode on Xbox. And yeah, it's just not that game anymore. And that is also shown by, again, here's Dread Roberts saying, like, please explain how the pride flag fixes this.
Right.
Not just the pride flag, the BLM pride flag, because that's what we need right now. Because blacks and Latinos are basically gay. That's what you're telling us. All right, thanks, guys. And yeah, here's one of the people that worked on the game that works on the game. He says, this is a post from 2023. I honestly don't think I could work on a game that glorifies or fantasizes modern guns like COD, Battlefield, or RB6. I've had moments I've struggled with Halo, but the weapons in world is pretty sci-fi, which creates a large enough separation from reality. Why are you working on video games? Why are you working on games that involve guns at all? Here's this is the chief of staff at 343. So this is not like a small position, okay? Chief of staff, 343 Studios, Melissa Boone. This is her, I think this is her LinkedIn. She's got her pronouns in the bio. She got a rainbow flag. And I mean, I guess that's about the extent of the virtue signaling you can put on your LinkedIn page. But she also has her Twitter, which also has,
Yep.
purple hair,
The pronouns.
she, her pronouns, rainbow opinions on my own, which means don't at me with my opinions, even though my tweets are likely protected. So yeah,
Right.
this is the
Oh,
people that are running
actually,
our...
I had the opportunity to follow her, and I looked at her Twitter, and I think I sent you the link to it in case we wanted to actually get into it. But surprisingly, not protected yet. But I would imagine within the next few days, it totally will be.
Yes. Yeah, well, no, totally. Basically, once I guess they're working on a new Halo game right now, right? Because the whole showcase.
Mhm.
And by the way, the graphics and everything that looked really good. But once I saw these faces and how they were, I remember a specific line because this is like an incantation, a specific line where they said, "We're moving it into the future." That is like immediate red
Right.
flag. Oh, you mean progress? You mean progressivism? You mean gay race communism?
Right.
You mean global homo? You will live in the pod, eat the bugs, own nothing, and be happy. Yeah, no, I
Right.
don't think so. Look,
Oddly enough, she kind of looks like the soldier from
Concord. It's
Concord.
the same. Yeah, right.
Same
I
color
got
scheme and
you.
everything.
I got you. That was her line. I remember that.
Yep.
She needs the blue lipstick, and then it'd be like right on point. So yeah.
Right.
Tebow says many people are rightfully worried about the chief of staff at Halo Studios, Melissa Boone, and her obvious ideologically driven activism. However, it's not just Melissa who has an agenda to push. The executive producer, Casey Wu, and Elizabeth Van Wyck. So women are just women.
Mhm.
That's
so many women in this video.
It's just
so many women.
Well, the only men in the video are the men that are actually talking about the shit that the gamers care about, which is essentially the engine and the gameplay and the biomes and all that. And the women are well, you just... So I just want to say something. All right, I'm done with this story, but there is something I want to say, and then I'll let you say something. I almost picked a different topic for today's show, and it would have been like something very much a departure from what the Week in Culture is normally about, which is where I usually talk about things going on in our essentially our storytelling mediums. I don't like to call them entertainment because that makes it sound like it's just a sort of a diversion or just a distraction, and they're not. They should be that to some degree. Like you go to work, you work hard all day, you're tired, you come home and you just want to like unwind, watch a movie, watch a TV show you like, play a video game, right? Play sports, watch sports ball, or whatever it is.
Get out of your own headspace.
Yeah, and basically get out of your own headspace, get out of the daily grind, and allow yourself to unwind. And one of the things I don't like that these people do is they want to be in your mind all day long. So you're bombarded with it in the music, in your television, in your gaming, in your films, in your advertising, on social media. Right. It's everywhere.
Unrelenting.
It's constant. Yeah, and it's unrelenting. So that is normally what we talk about. But I think that I thought that one of the methods of entertainment that's really popular right now are podcasts. Okay. And there was a podcast that I was going to do a video on because I wanted to show people where we are at when it comes to let's say the conversations or the media that men and women are drawn to. And so when it comes to podcasting, maybe you know this, maybe you didn't, I don't know. But what is in your mind? I'll ask you, John, just to see if you can guess it. What do you think the most popular podcast for men is? On Spotify.
Oh, Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, right?
Joe Rogan.
So yeah, it's Joe Rogan, and sometimes it's Tucker Carlson, who's also sometimes he overtakes him. Okay. Now, what is Joe Rogan's content? I mean, I know it's podcasts, but what kind of people does he
conversations?
Yeah.
He talks to everybody.
He does, right? He talks to survivalists, ex-military, MMA fighters. But he also talks to political analysts, economic guys, health food guys, people who are concerned with, physical health. And so it's a broad range, right? Politics, all kinds of stuff, a broad range of things. What do you think the most popular podcast for women is on Spotify?
Oh, wow. I think for some reason, I think I might actually stick with Joe Rogan.
Nope. I will.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
no. But Joe Rogan is extremely popular with men. Tucker Carlson extremely
Right.
popular with.
I
men.
guess I guess a lot of woke white women
doesn't-
probably listen to Spotify. Like,
Well,
I'm
yeah.
a bad person to ask. I don't Spotify. So.
Well, I don't really either. I mean, I use it for music, but like I you know, you can. I think. Well, I'll just tell you the answer. Okay. So there's a podcast called "Call Her Daddy," that is the most popular podcast for women on Spotify, and it's not specifically white women. It's just women, just like Joe Rogan is not specifically white men. It's just men in general.
Right.
Mostly white men, maybe, I don't know, but like doesn't matter. Okay. What is Call Her Daddy about? Well, it's basically women's sexcapades. It's talking about oral sex. It's talking about partying. It's talking about being a train wreck. And she had she normally gets on like these celebrities and porn stars and people OnlyFans accounts on her show. Now I've watched some clips because I was curious to see, you know, what this is about. But she had Kamala Harris on recently. So Kamala Harris went on that podcast, okay, to talk to that woman about why women should vote for her. So she went on the most popular podcast for women, which is a sex podcast, basically. And she was there to try to convince women that they should vote for her because men are going to try and control their bodies. And so I almost said,
oh yes, I saw the tweet. I
there
saw
are
that
clips.
tweet.
There are clips going around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I haven't seen the clips from it, but just the tweet that, like, you know, like men don't know what it's like to have their bodies, under the scrutiny of the law.
Men don't even know where tampons go and stuff like that. Yeah, men just don't understand women because they're dumb, even though they're literally watching, like, you know, guys who like Joe Rogan that have scientists on and shit. So
right. Well, there was something even more like outlandish because it was like, men don't know the struggle that it is to have laws made that, like, you know, like don't take your body, that don't allow you to have control over your own body. It's like, well, last I checked, we have this thing called the draft, and like, you know, we all went through like this thing called COVID Hell World 5 years ago.
For sure,
like,
sure.
You know,
yeah, no, of course,
it just seems a little bit hypocritical, and obviously, like, you know, I don't know, myopic, I guess.
Well, I don't think they have, you know, they talk about like how men don't get it, but they really just don't want to understand where men are coming from. But the reason why I brought this up briefly is because the reason I think women are going to ruin Halo. That's all I can say. Like, these women are going to ruin Halo, and part of it is because they're women. Like, I'm sorry, ladies. If there's any of you ladies watching, I hope you understand that what I'm saying is true. And so we have to, like, it's okay that women work there, because if you look at photos of the original Bungie team when the original Halo was coming out, there were women on the team, but there was only a couple of them, and they were probably only there based on merit. But these women are not there based on merit. They're there because they're activists. They're there intentionally to, well, what did the guys say on the last show? We said, burn the games industry to the ground. Why wouldn't you go for the most popular, most beloved franchises? This is specifically what they do. They go after only the biggest things. They go after the biggest things: Star Wars, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Halo, okay, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer. These are the most popular, and specifically with men. They're popular with men.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, and then they are, you know, like, without the talent, skill, and ability, capable of, even with that kind of platforming, to put them into that stratosphere, so to speak, with that position of power, because they didn't actually earn it. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, that's why it all falls apart. You can't, like, again, I go back to the analogy about the gym. You have to learn your form before you stack weight. You can't just go and platform people into positions because of, you know, racist or bigoted criteria that puts that first and foremost before the actual merit that would, you know, pertain to the job itself. And if you're doing that, you're making a recipe for disaster. So yeah, there's no way that this can turn out well.
Yep. So yeah, that was, and these people. Well, I got a super chat. So thank you, James OP, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. $10. Thank you so much. I should play a sound for you. Hold on a second. I will play a sound for you. Here we go. Okay. So you gave us $10 and said games are made by geeks. Geeks have been pushed out by big studios or pushed out of big studios. What's left is diversity hires. Geeks move on and make a Mass Effect like Exodus game for 2026. Yes, well that is definitely what I think is happening. But remember, these people are also geeks in their own way. They're theater kids. They're theater kids that didn't make it as writers or as actors or whatever, so they just get involved with an industry. Like one of the dudes, I think that woman,
all the neuroses, none of the talent.
No, that woman that I said was like that. We went through all of her pronouns and shit. She's got like a postdoctorate in like, you know, analyzing graphs for the intersection between race and HIV. That's nothing to do with gaming, guys.
Well, that's important for the game industry.
This is what I'm talking about. She is an activist. Like, this is what colleges produce. It doesn't produce people who can do something useful in the world. Who needs a person whose job is to examine graphs that look at the intersection between HIV, drug use, and race? Like, it's completely... That's why they work in gaming. Because they can't use it anywhere else. And the fact is they need to learn that they shouldn't be necessary in gaming either. And they're getting these crazy positions. That's how you know it's DEI. That's how you know it's trash.
Yep.
But anyway.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, we're looking at theater kids and a different brand of loser that because they're not men, they get to keep their jobs. So and meanwhile, because a lot of these guys, you mentioned that they were pushed out by the big studios. You know, one of the things that pushed these guys out was the Me Too movement. There were a lot of women and unions that wanted to get certain people in positions of power within companies. And so what they did was they had women make allegations, and it didn't matter because like the thing about whisper networks, spreading rumors, whatever. Because the thing is, since these are done through the human resources departments, you don't involve the police. Right? Because then you have to prove shit. So instead, you just you make it into a thing that the company has to deal with because they don't want the bad media press. So they just fire the people that are on the list. Yeah. They just fire them, and then you lose all these great people, and then you get like these people who have no qualifications. And so I think that it's a good thing in the long run because you're right, James OP. These people are going to build their own thing. Like that one game we covered a while back, the Forever Winter. A lot of the guys that worked on that game used to work on, they worked for much bigger studios, and they've been ousted, and they're looking to sort of rebuild. So they're building their own thing. So we're gonna look out for like new, startup game companies that are doing like AA work because they're probably good at their job, but they've been ostracized by the AAA industry. Or shall we say the quadruple A industry? Because that's where we are now. This is the age of the quadruple A game. So
that's the other tell on how pointless all this bullshit is they say, oh, well, if we call ourselves quadruple A now, that means we're even more elite, even more premium, even more, and it's just like you're more desperate because the whole idea of what is a triple A game, in and of itself was just like triple A refers to like, like the quality of meat and things like that. And like that was co-opted into gaming because it was already a term that existed. There is no such thing as AAA games or quadruple A. It's just a thing that got like adhered to it and acting like there's somehow like this distinction between large level corporate entities making a game and just like four guys who just like really have like passion and drive pushing them forward. That's not what gamers give a shit about. Like it's not like you just like you may have more marketing capabilities and this and that, but what we're working on right now, like, like with the Discord on like, actually building up like this concept of, I had it labeled as non-woke indie games, but now that I'm fully reality-based, I think I'm going to change it to reality-based indie games where, it's like we just need to support people that are in the here and now and actually understand what the purpose of a game is. And, we support those people and we become the media. And we just do what we do like we do at the end of this show every week, where we actually highlight the things that we like and enjoy and, kind of, prod the things that thought they were going to like, be able to just kind of get by on the appearance of being good by stealing someone else's valor and like, you know, trying to like, you know, just puppet and mimic this thing that was far better years ago.
Yeah.
So that's how we changed the script and actually like, you know, make gaming at least remain relevant. Otherwise we're set for a crash, and the crash is going to happen regardless.
Yeah. All right, well, let us know what you guys think about that one. And speaking of quadruple A games, game studios, Ubisoft finally issued a response to rumors regarding Tencent's potential buyout. That was, you like that transition? I like that transition. James OP sent another super chat. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Come again.
Uh-oh, that was offensive. Shut up, Apu. You have been canceled. Do you remember that guy made the documentary about how Apu is racist? All right, so he gave us $5 and says Exodus is an actual game coming from the original Mass Effect team to be released in 2026. It is stunning even this early in. Well, we'll check it out at the end. Thanks for mentioning it. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah.
I think I heard something about this.
Yeah,
Though. I did hear about this.
James is actually, he just joined the Discord today. He runs a website that I'm going to look into once we get out, and it's about indie games and things like that. So
well, James,
it's very advantageous to have him here.
Yeah, join my Discord too. So drop me the link so I can look at all of that stuff. We all should be working together. So check out the link to Honey Badger Arcade Discord in the description, as well as John's Discord for the Fellowship Fringe Society in the description. So and join it. I have a permanent invite. Hopefully John's is still permanent too. Try it out. See if it works. Let me know if it doesn't.
As far as I believe already joined during the last
so he's
show
in
that I was
here.
on.
So yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this for anybody else who's watching. So
indeed, most definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, Ubisoft has officially decided to come forward and address the rumors of Tencent exploring the option to buy out the French game publisher. Of course, it's the French. It's always the French. Although the statement right now is very vague. It's been rumored that Tencent is teaming up with the Guillemot family to buy out Ubisoft to take that company private, but has not officially been confirmed. Now, of course, Tencent wants to do this. I think this is actually an important thing to point out. You know, I think it's true that the Chinese government with Tencent, because Tencent is essentially part of the Chinese government, it's an arm of the Chinese Communist Party. They are, I think, working to undermine, or at least help to undermine, AAA devs, so they lose a bunch of money, and then they are like, they have to sell their company, and then look who's there to scoop them up, and they, because like the Chinese government, they fund this, like these DEI ESG things in the West. Now, I think ultimately it's the Western company's fault for going along with it, because they could just give them the finger and say, no, we're not going to work with you, especially the Chinese Communist Party. But they don't do that. So I think ultimately, like, commies gonna commie, guys. That's what they're gonna do. Commies are gonna commie. So you can ignore them and don't do what they say, or you can bend the knee. And if you bend the knee, it's kind of on you. So let's see what they said, though. Okay. So it wouldn't be too shocking for the Guillemot family to team up with Tencent to purchase Ubisoft, as the Guillemot family founded Ubisoft, with Yves Guillemot being the current CEO of the company. It is said that Tencent wants to look into ways to, quote, stabilize Ubisoft and bolster its value, end quote. So it's like they sabotage Ubisoft and then they buy them. It's kind of I mean, that's what it is, right?
Well, it's either the sabotage, or I think that it might be even more insidious, because you know, the documentary that I made that first got us kind of connected on YouTube was the WF United Nation, you know, a Rockefeller Foundation connection that created the financing chain through Ubisoft to start propagating all these insidiously, you know, kind of incepted consulting firms and everything like that. Because Ubisoft has a fiduciary commitment to their actual stockholders and not necessarily the stakeholders. The stockholders could, you know, sue them for negligence, but if they go and, like, you know, sell the company to China, then all that goes off the table, because you're not going to get any information from China. Yep.
He tried to warn us.
So,
China. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, it's just pretty much the end of what I'm saying on it, because it's just like, you know, it's a matter of kind of making things opaque And this is sorcery. This is dark magic. This is, making it so that you are unable to penetrate those layers of information that have been kind of, you can openly find a lot of this information if you just take the time and effort to go to the WF's own website and look into how they do these things. But, that's how my YouTube channel got shadow banned was, I pointed to the fact that, DEI and ESG was grown out of this concept of kind of trying to put minded kind of ideas and whatnot into video games for the purpose of climate change and incepting the minds of the young. And it hasn't worked, obviously, and now that it's really been exposed for what it is, their next move out of desperation is to go and prevent anybody from actually exposing them further, because I'm just some jagoff who made a video that still I've had more people watch me on a stream today talk about it collectively than I've ever watched that video in its full sum of eyes that have seen it from beginning to end. So go to Problematic White Guy and check it out if you want to know more of the luring details.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. I did. So okay, so we're gonna move on to the next story, but let us know what you guys think. I think ultimately this is the purpose. This is what Tencent wants. They want to consume or absorb as much, and BlackRock's no better. So it's not like I'm only picking on the Chinese here, So
Tencent is BlackRock. BlackRock is Tencent.
Yeah, there's not really
they're connected to. Yeah, they're invested in each other through third-party IP clearinghouses and things like that. So that's a lot of this stuff is a hegemony of a very few robber barons that are colluding together under the guise of each other's faces.
Yeah,
but it's all just so they can all just kind of have all the market to themselves.
Yep. All right. So let's see. We're gonna move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. So somebody mentioned this chat, and I did already have it up and ready to go. But I mean, this is a bit of news that shouldn't surprise anybody who has actually been a gamer for any period of time. But there was a poll conducted. Over 95% of players don't consider inclusivity important in gaming. No shit. So let's look at this. Okay. The highlights. A recent poll indicated that over 95% of players don't care about inclusivity in games. Forcing inclusivity into video games has been a known culprit, leading them to failure, and I hope it continues to be a failure. DE&I has become an unfortunate trend that has gradually been gaining more pace. Inclusivity is an unfortunate trend that has picked up in the industry over the past few years. No, it's been a lot longer than a few years. It's been like at least, I would say at least 10 years in gaming.
At least, and I would argue that,
yeah,
and I would argue that it goes back to at least 2006, 2003 on the lead up. And then there was an initial kind of inception phase and, getting those people into the HR departments and like the whole thing I talked about, like with the woman who is the head of our game design department. She was platformed in there to be the head of women in games. And she's the president. And like that was all the way back in 2009. She became the head of our department in 2005. So, there was time even leading up to that. And so like, that's the thing is like, this is an onion. One layer leads to the next layer, and where you stop, kind of like, peeling away the layer, you might say, oh, this is where it started. But this shit goes all the way back to the 1960s easily, if not even further back, So.
Yep. So most fans share the opinion as 95% of gamers voted that they don't care about inclusivity in gaming in a recent poll. I like that they said didn't care about as opposed to, I don't know, oppose or against, because the people who push this stuff, they're all about the Darvo. They're all about
the
blaming you for the problem. Like, oh, you don't like it when women are in video games. You don't like it when people of color are in video games. It's like, no, that's a lie. I don't care. But I like things to remain consistent. So if I was playing a franchise, for example, and the franchise featured a white dude in it, then I'd like the same white dude to be in future iterations of said franchise. not because I'm like a white nationalist or anything, but because that's what the game was. And, you know, and they, of
Right.
course, want to pretend like that's not what it is. They're the ones that are about changing things. They're the ones obsessed with race and gender and sex and sexuality. It's always them. And so they
Hmm.
pretend like they're the ones that are doing something normal, and you're the one that's being like, you know, the regressive patriarch or whatever. So I like that they phrase
Right.
it this way, where it's about not caring, and not caring is the best thing
Right.
you can do about that. So
Right. Well, the thing of it too is like by using the words "they don't care," then if somebody is dim-witted enough to just kind of glance at the title, they'll be like, "Oh, so people don't care about it, so it's not that big of a deal."
yeah,
I
exactly.
this is a lampshade
Oh, it's another
comment.
way, but I think this is correct though. I think, but
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. A
so
lot of people don't care, but they're trying to get it to where, like if you don't actually read the article, you're just one of these people who gets the headlines. Like, well, if people
yeah,
don't care, then why is there such this uproar and this fervor? So
yeah.
yeah,
So here's the
this
poll.
is a lampshade tactic.
Let me see if I can I open this because it's like a tiny image. But yeah, you can see here, you know, is inclusion important in video games? Yes, no. And we got 4.9% saying yes and 95% saying no. It's not a huge poll. It's like 600 and something people. But I think that that is an important point. And again,
Right, but
like
even
you,
600 people, that's 30 people to 470 roughly.
mm-hmm.
So, like that's not a small amount,
No, I know, but
and that's
I'd like to see a big. I think it would probably come out about
yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
same, but I'd like to
Oh
see a
yeah,
bigger
I think it
sample
would scale
size.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even still, even in that, like that's still kind of like, you know, how many people are you even like how many people even want to answer the question, because like, it's just one of those things where it's so just stilted, even in and of itself. So like, like the overwhelming majority of people that are even going to answer that are the people who, are actually affected by it. And these people who stand for it, they're not going to even support it,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the funny thing about this whole thing is like it's carried out by people that have no passion, no drive, for an audience that has no passion and no drive.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
makes no sense.
Um. All right. So I was going to say, let's see, let's see. Before we get into the next story, I'm gonna get into the next story because this is like I think a kind of money shot story. It's like a payload story that I think is important. I guess it's not a story. So I'm looking at this blog on Substack
Right.
by this guy named Isaac Young, and he's a writer. Now, let me put it on screen here. Have you guys seen the Joker sequel? Anybody here? Anybody in the chat? I have not. But has
I
anybody
will
seen
not
it? You will not.
pay
Okay.
for it,
What have you
and
heard?
I might not even.
Have you heard anything about it? I mean, we know it's a musical. We know it's not getting good reviews. But what else? I keep
Awful
seeing
entry.
memes. What?
Right. Yeah, yeah. There's a Brokeback Mountain meme that kind of has
Yeah. What's that about?
taken over the internet. Evidently, he gets assaulted in jail by a guard staff member of sorts. At
He
least
gets
that's
like, does he
I can't.
get sodomized in prison?
Yeah, evidently that's what my understanding is of it. I have not seen, so I can't really confirm. But yeah, like it's kind of like, well, he's a villain, but he's not like a villain like like
No,
the way that
he
he's misunderstood. You
he's
see,
not Heath Ledger's
it's
Joker. He's not Jack Nicholson's
right,
Joker. He's not even Mark Hamill's Joker.
right,
Um,
right. Oh
right.
yeah, I did see the meme too, and I posted it to our Discord that like Jared Leto's somewhere right now, like like just breathing a sigh of relief because he's no longer
The
going to be
worst
considered the
Joker.
worst Joker. Yeah.
Okay. So, hello to all the new people who have joined. Hi, David, Joshua, Great Indoors. I think I saw, yeah, Little Miss Anonymous. Welcome to the show. Please
Yeah,
hit the like
Elmi's
button and
great.
help us out. We're gonna get into this. So let's put this up on the screen because I think this is okay. So I saw the original Joker film, and it's one of those experiences, right, where you watch it and you like it when it's over. The credits roll, you're in the theater, you're like hyped about that. And you're like, man, that was really good. And then time passes and you start thinking about the movie, and the more you think about it, the more you're like, actually, it was just okay. Like that was my thing after
Right.
I walked away, because essentially it was Taxi Driver meets the comedian, which are
The king of
the
comedy.
King of
And
Comedy.
yeah.
Yeah, King of, that's what I meant to say. Taxi Driver meets
Yeah.
King of Comedy with a DC Comics paint job. Like honestly, if it didn't have the Joker branding, it probably wouldn't have been successful. If it was just about some guy who
Right.
essentially has
Then
a
it would have
bad
been an art
day.
house film.
Yeah, it would have just been some art house film, and it was kind of, because it was made on a pretty small budget. I think it was like 50 million or something like that,
Yep.
and it won all these awards. But I don't know if you remember when the movie came out. I don't know if you remember this, but it was very controversial. What I mean is, a lot of people that a lot of people in the film review side of the internet, the film commentary side of the internet, were taking issue with the story because, and they called it this because it, in their minds, promoted white male rage. Do you remember that white male rage
Mhm.
narrative surrounding the
Mhm.
original Joker film? And one of the things
Yeah.
that came with it too is that the Joker movie was memed all over the internet by, like, I guess what they would call dissident right-wing people online. Like they were using the "you get what you fucking deserve" thing, and there's the dancing on the steps and all of these other memes. There was even a really great meme that I liked that had like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker next to the Heath Ledger Joker, and they're both looking, because essentially it became a thing for Clown World. So whenever there was some Clown
Right.
World shit going on, they would just show the Joker from this movie reacting. So he became kind of a darling amongst the dissident right online trolls. And I don't say trolls in a disparaging manner. I'm a troll myself in a way.
Indeed.
But it was just being used by people, and essentially I remember the director of the movie saying, those people don't get it, this is about them, right? And he was angry, Phillips, the director, he was angry that people were using the Joker to meme on people, and they were having
Right.
fun with it, and they were finding it relatable.
Which is what a
in
Joker would do.
ways. Yeah, for a lot of people, it was relatable. The story of Arthur Fleck, and the fact that he was a white guy and he was getting trounced on and trampled on, and he like finally fights back. Like that was what they were feeling. It's kind of like how people relate to characters like Patrick Bateman, who is like from American Psycho. He's obviously a murderer, or maybe at the very least he's mentally ill, but he's trying to find something real, and that's the thing that people resonate with. Or the main character, I think his name is Defense from Falling Down, played by Michael Douglas, right? Like these are these characters that we know the directors are trying to say, this is a piece of shit guy, and part of the reason why is because he's part of this, Western like capitalist system or whatever, of like white dudes, patriarchy, etc. That's why you're supposed to dislike him. Like Don Draper is another one from Mad Men, but they end up becoming meme worthy. Or the guy from The Sopranos, Tony Soprano. Like these are all guys.
Or U.S. Agent. We were supposed to hate him.
Yeah,
same
U.S.
with
Agent.
Homeworld.
Yeah, right,
Homelander and all that stuff. Yeah, like
so
it's just
it. Yeah, so Todd Phillips didn't like the fact that the fan base, or the people that viewed the movie, were the kind of people he despised, despite the fact that all of the people in the media were trying to shame and blame that same group of people. Okay, and so he made the sequel, and they threw a lot more money on it, and it was a flop. And I said, this was on purpose. I said, when I heard about it, I was like, they made this movie bad on purpose because they wanted to stick it to the fans. They're willing to destroy a franchise that could print money because they don't like the people who watch it. So I'm going to show you this guy, Isaac Young. He writes a blog about this. And it explains exactly what I'm saying. He does it better than me. And I've been saying this for a long time. So they will make you the villain and then laugh when you agree. Okay.
Right.
So,
and I would contend that this is why Taco Fight was canceled, is because we didn't have the reaction that they wanted. If they had baited the chuds the right way in their mind, it's like we'd all been like, "Oh, I hate this. How can you do this to Star Wars?" But most were like, "Star Wars has been dead for years, so thank you for the unintended comedy. I'm going to laugh my ass off now and can keep doing this." because this is great, and you're just like, like accelerating the insanity to where people, actually kind of like see it for what it is, and it's breaking the enchantment hold that they try to put over people that, oh, we're doing things to like, correct and right the wrongs, and people are like, yeah, no, this is clearly not that. And the only people that were having problems with Talkify are people that, for whatever reason, were still kind of like vaguely tenuously connected to like their care or love for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But people like me, like I grew up with it, and I kind of like, I'll watch the prequels, if it's on and like somebody that I care about is watching it. I'm not going to tell them to shut it off, but I'm never going to like really seek to go watch those. And so when they got to like the Disney Star Wars phase of it all, I don't think I've ever actually watched any of those movies past The Force Awakens. Well, I know I haven't watched any of them past the Force Awakens in the theater, but I don't believe that I've even watched. I can't remember what the order is. Is it
Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker? I only watched
all right,
Force
so yeah.
Awakens, but I knew it was going to be trash before I went in.
Yeah.
But my friends wanted to see it, and I was like, okay, but I'm telling you, But yeah.
Right. But yeah, the very last one, the only thing that I know of it is through watching it via Mahler, and and just kind of like like the whole thing about how it's about the it's Palpatine saga ultimately, and I'm not really down for like the Palpatines winning, so I just don't give a shit about Star Wars anymore, and there's no way that anybody can ever convince me it's anything but that story now.
Yeah.
So I don't care.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm completely checked out. I mean, of anything new. I'll watch the old stuff, but I'm completely checked out of anything new. All right, but anyway, let's go through this. So you guys get an idea of the kind of mentality we're dealing with, and I think this guy is correct. What he wrote. I'm gonna read the whole thing, so it's gonna take a little bit of time, but it's not that long. All right, so the Joker movies were always a trap for the left's untouchable casts. When I saw trailers for the first film back in 2019, I was immediately turned off. While so many were hyping its praises, I was still burnt out from The Last Jedi. By that point, I was spiraling away from the mainstream, and nowadays I only go to the movie theater when my family wants to go on an outing. I'm with that. I'm actually going to try and go to the movies with Lindsay, my wife. Maybe this weekend we're going to try and watch Am I Racist? Because I really want to see that movie. But anyway, now I didn't see Joker to make a stand or whatnot. I think I was still in high school at the time. I just didn't like the idea of exploring the Joker as a loser with mental illness. For me, the character was never just some rando who had a bad day and decided to put on clown makeup. Although he would do everything to assure you otherwise, I always saw that as an illusion, even if the writers believed in it. When regular people snap, they don't become criminal masterminds who can rob banks with impunity and contend with billionaire detectives. No, the Joker I knew was a whirlwind, a catastrophic force of nature that appeared from nowhere and wrecked under bedlam. He was a demon, literal or no, summoned by the excesses of a corrupt culture. His claim of being an ordinary man was only to mess with the characters' heads, to break them. But the face of evil isn't so readily understood. He was always more than that, an almost supernatural presence that our materialist culture could only explain away with a vat of weird chemicals. So, I mean, I see the Joker, like the comic book Joker, the Joker I know, he is what's considered an elemental evil, which means that there's no need to explain. It's like a demon. It's like a ghost, right?
Right.
Like you don't need the backstory for Skeletor.
To try to bring it to a pedestrian level and say, well, this is how the Joker is, would ruin it. It's much like Twin Peaks, where you can't really, give a pedestrian kind of pedantic answer about it all, because the magic is in the mystery, and just kind of like the thing you can't control.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, to see him on screen as a regular beaten down guy instead of a trickster devil was enough to dissuade me from watching entirely. But that turned out to be a good thing, because that meant I wasn't invested for when Joker Folie à Deux came around. The backlash to this movie is part of a fermenting undercurrent that I've noticed for some time. First, we all knew since its announcement that it was an intentionally bad movie. The idea to make it a musical was alone a dead giveaway that the creators were not making this for the fans. It's a film downright hostile to its audience, but that's not what I'm interested in. Tell me, what does it matter if the Joker gets raped or humiliated? Tell me honestly. The man's a psychopath. And furthermore, why is anyone invested in a character study about a villain? Are there any heroic qualities to him that would make you want to relate to him or understand him? People don't get this attached to genuine dissections of evil. And looking beyond that, I'm certain I can find plenty of worse things that have happened to him in the comics. I think at one point he got his face flayed off or something. Why is this any different? I remember that from the comics too.
Yep.
But we all know it's different. Everyone is instinctually on the level that this is an attack on fans. So that's the purpose of this movie, guys. They spent $200 million to attack the fans, and they didn't care if the movie flopped. This is like I'm just putting it out there, okay? Okay, and more importantly, everyone on the right who thought that they saw something in the character. So this is an attack on the right, and I put that in quotes. After all, this particular incarnation was supposed to be the most relatable, and I think it was meant to tap into this fascination Western culture has with psychopaths, especially psychopaths with a code. And here's a picture of Sugar from No Country for Old Men. I didn't really like this movie personally, but I get why people did. Here's Patrick Bateman.
Right.
I think great for memes online. One of my favorite. And the Heath Ledger Joker, right? Why are people so fascinated with these villains? You would think they would inspire a visceral sense of disgust or at least dislike. They are thoroughly immoral people who do horrendous things, and yet we can't get enough of them. We can't get enough of villains who have a point, who deep down have a critique of the West that lands true. The Joker is fascinating in part because he makes you question what a good person truly is. Patrick Bateman is trying to find something that's real underneath the shallowness of his life. Anton Chigurh is a bit more tricky, but there's a component of him bringing a savagery and primal violence back to a tamed West, an almost too tamed West. And we can go on and on. This is not an uncommon trope in the slightest. But I would question whether the romanticization of these villains is a product of cultural rot. Why don't we have an unabashed love of heroes and a hatred of our villains? Why is the bad guy so often more charismatic, more primal than our protagonist? Why has the good become associated with the lame and the bad associated with vitality? I would wager the right's propensity to attach itself to these figures is because we intuitively sense that something has gone awfully wrong. The heroes in mainstream stories are not actual heroes, and while the villains are horrendous, they at least point to something that's more true. Deep down, the Joker is absolutely right that people aren't the moral paragons that they like to think of themselves as, and that's like part of his rant at the end of the first film, right? Is that they're all fake, everybody's fake, okay? And they have no foundation to prevent utter chaos when their hypocrisy is brought to the surface. Of course, the Dark Knight movie refutes this with the fundamental goodness of common people, going so far as to laud the virtues of those incarcerated in the prison system. And Batman's reliance on a noble lie only serves to prove the Joker's point, as clearly seen in the third movie. That's Batman Rise or Dark Knight Rises. So ought we take the frame of the Joker? Was he the right-wing paragon all along? Is he the man that we should get behind? Absolutely not. One of the left's favorite tricks is to invest psychopaths and demented crazy people with right-wing ideas and aesthetics. It's the ultimate catch-22 to give your villains a point, because if the right adopts the frame, they also associate themselves with the horrendous things those characters do on screen. It prevents a noble vision of the right from ever fully manifesting, distracting people in digital clown games. No matter what the Joker movie had to say about incels or the corruption of society or whatever, he's worse. He's not just his mental instability. He's a pathetic loser with no moral compass, and his solution to decline is to accelerate. In other words, he's a villain. He's an actual bad guy. And this is the Joker from the movie, not the comics or the Dark Knight one, okay? And should the ironic take prevail, should the mainstream ever receive a different message than what the writers intended, they have one final trump card they can play, no pun intended. The Joker is entirely fictional, so they always have a Mott and Bailey tactic. That means that they can do whatever they want to him, and more importantly, make him do anything they want. He's a controlled frame,
right,
and the left will happily lose hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure he stays that way, because the left do not play for money, they play for the message. And that message is, you're the bad guy. You, the audience, you who didn't like who liked the Joker movie when you weren't supposed to. You who like thinks that you could be able to spend money on whatever you want. You who have a problem with wokeness in everything. You are the bad guy, and lol, you got gang raped. That's why he gets gang raped, because he's gang raping you. He's owning the chuds with gang rapes in his movie that he spent $200 million to make. The lesson to take away is to never invest yourself in modern media. Memes and edgy takes are one thing, but they are nothing to attach yourself to. The left will never make a true right-wing hero, only right-wing villains. They want you to put you in a mold that they can laugh at. Never embrace imagery unless it's genuinely worthy of emulation. And I think most importantly, never attach yourself to a caricature your enemies control. Image below may or may not be related for 2026. There's a picture of the Homelander, again, another character that they are using for those same purposes. That's why the left, when people make memes of Homelander, and the left go, oh, you chuds don't realize he's the bad guy? Yeah, we know. It's kind of obvious, but we don't care. We're siding with him because it pisses you off. Again, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying don't engage in meme wars or ironic takes. Just don't get attached to them insofar as the left can turn them into a weapon against you. The proper response is to just shrug and let it go. The culture is completely hostile to you, and your ability to remain indifferent is the ultimate weapon against people who sovereignly desire your outrage. So that is exactly my point, and it has been for a very long time. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? John, are you there?
Yep. Sorry. What was the question again?
I said, those are my thoughts. I agree with this message. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. No, like, I'm very on point with this writing. Like, it's, it's exactly what's been going on. Like, this whole thing of trying to take anything that we actually appreciate and, break it down, take it apart, anything like that. Like I was even saying, like with the taco fight, and that's something that we ironically kind of found some pleasure in. So, anything that we appropriate, then it has to be destroyed. And that's why I say I believe the taco fight got canceled was because we actually made light of it. And so something like this, with what's in this article about the Joker, yeah, it's clearly just, they can't handle the fact that, the actual, issue that men were dealing with being, kind of dehumanized and downtrodden, all that kind of stuff is emblematic in the first Joker, but in the second Joker movie, you could almost argue that the actual heinous Joker behind it all is Todd Phillips, and then this is just his avatar to carry out, like, what is actually kind of the I guess, vengeful kind of, villainous thing. And, we don't have to really accept it and go to it or anything like that. And that's exactly what's happened. So it's like, all right, well, you just went and just kind of made anybody who actually even liked the first movie, I guess ultimately they didn't want us to like the first one. All right.
The first movie was really popular. Like everybody liked it.
Right.
But the problem is the wrong people liked it.
Right. And so I think that what their hope is that it'll retroactively kind of like, and so it's like, well, what does that even do? Like, why would you want to retroactively taint something that was successful with something that, unless the obvious aspect of this stuff is kind of a distractionary lampshade for the other bullshit that's going on in the background reality.
Yeah.
Of the moment.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah, I think that Todd Phillips, well, here's the thing, okay? The left has always controlled, like they've always had the majority of control over our media. So that meant that they had control over the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And we are now living in a time where we have social media and some people who they would consider to be undesirable are allowed to express their opinions online. And it's not even that they're necessarily spending hundreds of millions of dollars on their own content, because even like the biggest companies making content that doesn't line up with like the Hollywood vision of the message, they don't even have the same kinds of budgets. And I'm talking about, studios like Angel Studios that almost mostly operate on donations, or the Daily Wire that doesn't really make a lot of good movies anyway, because they don't really understand why why Hollywood works when it does work. And so like that's
Right.
a different conversation. But like the problem is that now you have something that appeals to everyone, and the left doesn't like that, because what they want is to be able to tell, you know, people that they don't consider part of their club how awful they are, and they want those people to respond to that with shame and guilt. But like people are getting sick of it. Like you can see this in the numbers. Like, you know, the movies are flopping. Like this Full of V or whatever the hell it is, I think it was like a bigger disaster than The Flash. What the hell does that tell
Right.
you? Like The Flash was, nobody
Right.
watched it. And why would they? Why would they want to watch a movie that starred a fucking abuser, you know, that was constantly getting like, you know, threatening people and assaulting people, like while in a drunken, drug-induced stupor, also claiming to be non-binary when getting arrested by police? Like, why would anyone want to watch a film that starred that guy? I can't
Right.
believe that he has any career left. Like, they're talking about replacing him with Elliot Page.
Right.
So-
Right. And that's kind of like the thing here is like, like what they've done is, you know, completely undermine any kind of connection people actually had to it that was fairly decent. And, you know, the only thing you're really left with is just kind of this, you know, like this bad taste in your mouth. And I think that, you know, the whole point of them doing that is, you know, just specifically for this, so that, you know, like people can go and say, I don't understand what this is about, and, you know, like it leads to, if anything, confusion on the viewer's part. But this is, you know, this is a fruitless effort on their part, because ultimately, you know, this movie is actually, if you want to go look it up, I believe that this has actually got a lower rating than Madam Web when it's all said and done with.
Probably,
It's,
yeah. I mean, woof, man. That's
So and think about that. Think about that. You know,
well. Here's
like,
something. Here's something
from such
really
heights to fall.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, here's something to think about. I think the most important thing is that Todd Phillips didn't care that this movie was a failure. Like he meant for this to be the way
Yeah.
it is. So they have
Right,
okay. So
right.
the original Joker was made with $50 million, and I'm pretty sure it took home a lot more than that. The first movie, okay.
Right.
And despite my issues,
So they
because
could
from
absorb the
very-
hit to some
yeah,
degree.
from the beginning, I said that this is not a good idea, because you're adding information to a character we don't need information about, and I know it's not going to be
Right.
canon. And I think this Elseworld stuff that they always do, especially at DC, but Marvel does it too. I'm getting tired of it. I think it's lazy. I think it's bad writing. I think it's for people who have no talent, and specifically for people who despise canon that's been established, because they're living in the present. They're engaging in presentism, which is like the idea that there is
Right.
no past. Everything is made now, and so they try to remake it. But Todd Phillips was so resentful at the idea that people were not as outraged by his movie as he thought they should have been. He literally
Right.
quadrupled the budget to make a sequel intentionally to destroy the franchise. And
Right.
I don't think people should be upset, because I think the idea is to say,
No.
hey, look, I took your franchise and destroyed it. By the way, that's exactly what they're trying to do in every industry. Every industry wants their Joker Folie adieu moment for every franchise and every character and everything that you love. And this is just one step. And that's why I'm pointing this out, because I think it's extremely important that you know that this is not an accident. Like, no, he's not crazy.
No.
He didn't make an irrational
this-
decision. This is completely rational.
This movie was effectively the scene from The Dark Knight of burning the money, intentionally saying,
Yeah.
I don't care about money. This is, you know, sending the
Or
message. And that's
or
exactly
when
what this is.
Kylo Ren said, "What? Let the past die."
Kill it if you have to. Yeah.
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 I mean, they're telling you what they're doing. Like, this is like not an accident, okay? You know,
Right.
and so I just want to drive home that this is a malicious and active thing that they're doing. It's on purpose. They have no remorse. They don't care. They hate what they're doing, but they hate you more. So,
Right.
you know, you should internalize that and understand that, okay? So anyway, I got some super chows, and then we have another story, and then we'll see how the industry's doing.
The
We'll look at
numbers.
some numbers. Yeah, look
Yeah.
at the numbers. That's my favorite part. Oh, it's one of my favorite. I like talking about how awful these commies are. But
Yeah.
Nova Fan 21.
It's a nice
gave
way
us
to
a
round
dollar.
out the day.
Yeah. NovaFan21 gave us $1 and said, "Thank you for pointing out that it's not stupidity, but deliberate ideological influence. People act like feminism in gaming never existed, but it's why Poison was made male back in the SNES days." Like, but in the old, are you talking about Poison from Final Fight? I think they had a different sprite image for Poison because they didn't want to do the sexy women. They thought it was a little, Nintendo was a bit, a little bit conservative when it
Yeah.
came to like imagery. So they made them like thin dudes. I remember that though, because I'm saying what a Poison is a woman. I know that people want to say a bunch of shit, but Poison's not a futa. Poison is a woman, but we just like, I think the idea that it's sort of ambiguous is fun. I don't see it as ideological in the slightest, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's right. The feminist probably
it's first act of a
ruined that.
localizer.
Yeah, exactly. Xeranx then gives us looks like $5. Thank you, Xeranx. Let me play a sound. If it's like $5 or more, I'll play a sound. Okay. So here we go.
You are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
All right, and he says we will eventually create new IPs and spaces that we must gatekeep. The problem is sussing out the noobs from the noobs with 2 zeros as opposed to noobs with the EW. So we keep the latter. How do we ultimately protect our crops from the locusts? Well, I guess you can usually see them. They usually have like frightening colors to scare off predators.
Yep.
So that's a start. I think that the thing is, okay, you don't worry about, like, people don't start infiltrating until you start succeeding. So like when you're at the ground level and it's grassroots and you've got like nothing, then these people aren't interested in those people. They're not interested in the guys that made the Great Rebellion. They're not interested in the indie developers. But that's why they only go after the gigantic, like, very popular, well-established franchise. That's why they go after Halo and Battlefield and like all the stuff I mentioned, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever. If you make something Final Fantasy, if you make something that blows up, then they're going to start coming in, and they probably won't have a lot to offer except, like, oh, I can do consulting, I can help with story, I can make art. Well, if they can make art, look at their portfolio. What's their portfolio look like? There's plenty of ways, and yeah, I would gatekeep the fuck out of them. The first thing you have to do is you have to understand, and this is a hard thing for some people. Discrimination is good and natural. So discriminate often. It is good and natural. They will tell you it's a bad thing. It is not. It is good and natural. We do it all the time. Okay?
They used to call it discriminating taste for a reason, and it's often like, like you also just use the word discernment.
Yeah, discernment too.
And,
sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying that, like, this is a way of, like, like they want to try to frame it in a way as though, like, actually, being, like I said, discerning about things and actually thinking about it, putting some critical thought and analysis into it. Mm-hmm. This is not what they want from the world. They just want you to be compliant, pliable, and a follower, and to not even think about, just go along with whatever it is that the programming tells you, because the programming is not because it's what's on, it's because that's what they're doing. So.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about the next story. Let us know what you guys think about that one in the comments. That was really the one I really wanted to talk about because I think it's a very good point. But yeah, anyway, let us know what you guys think. Let me move on to the next thing. This is the last story, and then we're going to look at some numbers. So tell us about Metal Gear Solid Delta. Okay, so according to this from Automaton, Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater's difficulty level will change depending on whether you choose the new third-person or original fixed perspective. I guess it would be a lot easier in third person.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually where this is one of those rare instances where it's like, to do the remake, they actually did a legitimate remake with the, upscale graphics and this and that, and all that stuff is otherwise unchanged. But because there are play mechanics that have advanced through the years of the series, and those might be something people are more kind of accustomed to. It was like when Twin Snakes came out on GameCube all the way back when. people found the game to be a little bit too easy because they didn't actually, and this was Quantic Dream, as I recall, who did that remake of it, and it did not, it did not resonate with the fans as good as something, that was made previously, which was just the game on its base mechanics when it first came out on PS2. So this is actually one of those things where it's like, I can understand making an adjustment for the mechanical aspect, because that's the whole thing I was saying earlier. Is like Metal Gear, if nothing else, is about tight mechanics and a good play loop, and then the story is just kind of the icing on the cake. So I'm fully, I'll actually probably maybe give this a chance, but the only reason why I might hesitate on doing that is just because I find Konami to be a repugnant company, and the way that they did Kojima wrong and dirty when Metal Gear Solid V came out.
So 5, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, was it really 5 or was it V? Because you played as Venom Snake.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So that's one of those things that's kind of hidden there, like in the, so that's one of those things. It's like we'll never truly probably have a testament to Metal Gear.
The ending was
right. And I kind of like the idea that it's Metal Gear Solid V. Because it's like telling this other kind of backstory about the stuff that led up to it. Metal Gear Solid 4 is a solid ending. The ending on a handshake, and and so that's kind of like when they call it Metal Gear, when it's taken as Metal Gear Solid 5, it almost seems as though it kind of undermines the finality of what takes place in Metal Gear Solid 4. But if it actually is Metal Gear Solid V instead, and you're just getting this more in-depth kind of retelling of what's going on with that character, and kind of like this whole kind of thing about like how Snake is kind of more of an archetype and an avatar that doesn't even necessarily get the dignity of being himself. And that's what the story about Metal Gear Solid is actually about, is him finding his humanity despite having been designed for war. And so I think that there's something kind of poetic in that. And even though, it wasn't an actual complete telling of the story, you still actually because they basically cut off like the last 20-30% of the story and just told Kojima get on and be on with yourself. And then they turned it a pachinko machine and all this kind of fuckery. And then they made Metal Gear Solid, what was it? The MOBA game that they tried to.
I don't know. I don't follow anything in mobile games.
Don't
you guys have
phones?
it
wasn't mobile. It was like you were going around killing weird crystal zombies. It was kind of almost like Death Stranding.
I remember that
Metal
one.
Gear.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
I heard that was awful. Yeah.
Right. But that's one of those things, though, is you can almost interpret that was the state of reality that was left and kind of destroyed in the wake of Metal Gear. And this is the reason I love Death Stranding, is if you ever ask me, like, what would be Metal Gear Solid 5, it's almost like, well, that's Death Stranding, because it actually advanced upon the themes and everything like that, and actually kind of went deeper into like this human aspect for another character that was a product of genetic engineering and all this kind of weird shit that like went beyond their control, but they still just wanted to be able to have a life. So
yeah.
I'm a little bit analytical when it comes to Metal Gear, so I might
you
also
should
just
watch,
kind of,
you should watch Max Starrett's videos on Metal Gear. He's a big fan too. So
right on, yeah. Send me
he talks a lot
links,
about Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, and he even went through like some of the Souls and Bloodborne games, because those have really insane lore. And Shadow of the Colossus. Like, he's got good analysis of games that we're probably not going to get again. Like Shadow of the Colossus. I don't know. That was like a fucking classic. But anyway.
Yep.
Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. It makes me realize that I need to play Metal Gear Solid 4 again. I have it still. Maybe I'll stream it or something. I haven't played it in a very long time, but like if you're interested in Metal Gear Solid 4, I also have V as well, and I really like what you could tell the mechanics, they got better over time. I think V had some of the best like gameplay for a Metal Gear game, because of all of the options you have, So yeah, definitely like that was a good game that could have been way better. That's all I'll say. So,
yeah.
All right. But anyway, Let's move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think. Oh, we're not doing any more stories. We're gonna look at numbers now.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
look
we're
at
at, we're at
some
the fun
numbers.
times.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so how's Concord doing these days? I'm pretty sure we know, but I thought I would
Right.
just get it out of the way. Okay. So 0 people are
Yeah.
playing because it is officially dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, bye bye Concord. So I mean, this isn't really a surprise to anybody. Then we got
No.
Starfield. So this is disappointing considering it's Bethesda. Starfield's at 10,042 players. Sure, it's a Tuesday, but you can see that it's trending downward. I think, and this is like the new DLC just came out, like literally, like
Right.
very recently.
A week and a half ago,
And
something like that. Yeah.
normally when there's like a new expansion or DLC, people come back to it. They want to like
Yep.
get back into the game again. Just
Just
like
Divers 2 has had a boost with its
Yeah.
recent kind of
Yeah,
give us one more chance kind of thing.
yeah, I have Helldivers 2 on the list here. Elden Ring also saw like a massive resurgence when Shadow of the Erdtree came out. Because all of the old like Miyazaki fans came back to it, and I'm one of them. So yeah, Starfield, not so great. Next we got Homeworld 3. Oh man. Again,
54
people
players.
in game, and again even at its peak it's only at like 80. Last time it peaked,
Right.
85, 86.
I believe the rating has gone down since last time we looked at it too. I don't remember it being in the 40s, but this is like 41% right now. Jesus.
Any
This thing's just getting
Homeworld
worse with each passing.
Yeah. Any Homeworld bros in the chat? Any home cells? What do you guys think about this? Are you even playing this? I want to know, because I know that some people who are subscribed to this channel are fans of Homeworld, the franchise. I'm not really aware of it, but they made me aware of it, and I thought I'm going to be following Homeworld 3's descent into the abyss, into the black hole of DEI and ESG. To see how it goes. So it's over for home cells. That's right.
Yes.
All right. Next, we got Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Also, just recently released some new DLC as well, because it's a live service game, right? 74
here's
people.
one interesting thing. 67.76. So it's got a palindrome for, so I mean, that's interesting, but that's not really like a measure of success.
Yeah. Oof, man. Suicide Squad is well, it's living up to its name. I knew from the beginning, considering the people who were getting involved with this project, that Suicide Squad had a 41% chance of suicide.
Right. And so it was released on Groundhog's Day, and here we are, not even a year removed, and it's
too bad.
Down
guys.
to double digits.
Again, this game probably should have been good. Like, these are all games that probably should have been good. Like Starfield, like made who are the guys that developed Fallout New Vegas? That's not Bethesda, right? I always was that Obsidian or Obsidian? Yeah, maybe
Obsidian.
Obsidian. Yeah, I got it mixed up with Elder Scrolls.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, Obsidian. Maybe those guys should have made.
Obsidian and Oblivion are very close to each other.
Yeah, they are. That's what I'm saying. It's an easy mistake to make. Maybe those guys should have been involved with making Starfield. Maybe we should have gotten more, I don't know, like exciting space exploration, and less randomly disproportionate numbers of aboriginals and pronouns, and we'd probably be okay.
Right.
I can't wait to start following the trajectory of Dragon Age, whatever the hell it is, the new Dragon Age.
Well, why would anybody give two shits about like the story of a genetically modified person? And it's like not just a person; it's genetically modified society. Like,
is that what Starfield is?
Yeah. The character.
If they're genetically modified, why are they so diverse? Like, why wouldn't they all look?
They're not even people, because that's the whole point. Is like, how I say the term ethnically beige. Ultimately the idea is to get rid of any kind of indigenous cultural anything, and just have like a hegemony of easily pliable, controllable underlings. Like, and the control state might still be able to be like, free birthers or whatever the hell, because this is kind of like the game that I wrote back in art school, Haven's Fall, gets into these kinds of things where it's like, these rules for thee but not for me kind of setup, and like it's techno-feudal fascist control state, and we're seeing it play out. Like, the story that I was writing about is what we're ultimately seeing. Like, when you talk about what is the identity crisis of where we're at with the trans agenda, like the trans agenda is the transhumanist agenda. It's just using this identity crisis aspect to kind of normalize it and get people to not even focus on the fact that this is ultimately about the destruction of all humanity and the human spirit and the human condition.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, so the socialism is about creating the social man, the ultimate man, right? So it's all transhumanist at the end of the day.
Yep.
Okay, so anyway, that's Suicide Squad. What's next? What do we got? Dustborn. That's right. People still play this. So it's got fewer people in game than there were seats at the Japanese Expo. So the Tokyo Game Show had more seats than there are concurrent players in Dustborn, and it is again trending down. When last time it peaked, it was at 11 players. Before that, 14. Oof, man. We are the Dustborn, the dustbin.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. We are the dustbin. We operate on sin. Like, it's just this is just terrible.
This is
terrible for them.
This is all on purpose, guys. Like Quantic Dream deserves whatever they get. You get what you fucking deserve.
Yeah.
To throw back to the Joker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed,
so how about successful games that are disliked? Well, Black Myth Wukong is at 116,850. Now, again, there's a couple of other Chinese games that I'm interested in. There's one in particular called Phantom Blade Zero. I think it's Chinese, and I'm very interested in it. And I know that we are, I already talked about how the Chinese are doing this on purpose. The government is paying people to, push this DI stuff in Western games while they ignore it in their own games. And I think that in a way, though, I'm okay with people buying these games because you should be telling the Western devs that you will reward quality, right?
Right.
And so they should be pursuing that. Now, ideally, we would Western devs would be making games like this, but they aren't.
Right. And the interesting thing too about Wukong is this number that's reporting is only what's available to us. Doesn't factor in the actual Chinese audience, so it might actually still be closer to like 1 million people.
Oh, sure, for sure. Yeah, this is only on Steam, so. And I don't know what other consoles it was on. So.
Anyway. PlayStation 5, I recall, and then I don't know if it was also on Xbox, but I think it was PS5 and Steam / just general PC stuff.
LATQCD says, I mentioned the CCF, or the CCP rather, pushing wokeness in the West to aristocratic utensil, and he thought I was delusional. Well, I mean, I normally think he's all right, but he's a little too quick to dismiss people who make good points because he didn't come up with them. But no.
Yeah, I love Spoon and all, but
but
he's kind of caught sometimes in his own
He seems to think that what you're claiming is that the Chinese came up with wokeness. Obviously, the French came up with that. And then the Bolsheviks, and then it got pushed into the West through the long march through the institutions, okay? But it's here now, and we have an option to resist. And I think China and other corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard and Blackstone, they're all just fine with continuing to nudge that. But the Chinese are not playing that same game on their own developers. So yes, he's allowed to think that. I know that, that he's got his criticisms of the West, but the fact is that the Chinese are not the engineers of this. They're just opportunists, and they're just using this. So R2 Lee2 says Black Myth Wukong was supposed to be on Xbox, but they delayed it, putting delayed in quotes. Well, maybe it couldn't run it. I actually don't. I think that this isn't actually that intense, though, of a game. Like, I ran like a benchmarking tool, and my computer is not great.
They might have got money from Sony to do like lead time.
Maybe
because nothing is truly exclusive anymore. But you can try to get like an exclusive period.
Yeah. So anyway, Blacksmith Wukong trending down, but again, we are looking at a single player game. and even then at its peak it was like, you know, 250,000. So it's doing really well. Next we got
Right.
Space Marine 2, which is, I think that this is a more worthy game of support. I know that there are problems with Warhammer, or like the Games Workshop company, but the development team here are pretty
Yeah,
good. Like
Saber.
the guy, yeah, Saber Interactive, the guy who runs it has said some pretty base things, and so I appreciate them. 28,000's not bad considering that you know, there isn't a lot of content on this right now. Like there's a single player campaign,
Yeah.
a co-op campaign, and then there's like multiplayer, but there's only like a couple of maps. So if they expand on it, it can continue to grow, but we'll see. It's, and again, maybe if you're not into Warhammer 40,000, it might not be for you. You heretic. All right, but anyway,
Right. And there might also be some hesitation just because the other stuff that's going on with Warhammer in recent months, and you know, like people just don't want to necessarily reward somebody that is undermining the very property in other areas.
Yeah, no,
You know,
and
so-
I don't have a problem with that either. If people say that, you know, I'm not gonna support Space Marine because of its ties to Games Workshop, I get it. So that's fine. I
Yep.
say in this case, I'm more lenient just because there is a separation.
Yep. Oh yeah,
there,
yeah.
so. But
Now, when
yeah,
these guys
so-
put out Knights of the Old Republic, I might actually check out Knights of the Old Republic, just simply because I do, you know, have good
Saber
memories
Interactive's
of.
doing Knights of the Old Republic.
If I recall correctly,
Yeah,
I'll
but
double check. But
I heard that there are some people on the team there that are, at least in terms of the writing and stuff, that are going to be.
Mhm.
Look, there are some red flags. That's all I'm going to say.
right,
Maybe
oh,
I'm
yeah.
wrong.
Oh
but,
yeah,
but KOTOR, there are some red flags.
oh yeah. I mean, like anything that's owned by Disney, there's kind of like a little bit of a hesitation,
that's
pause.
true.
But if
Yeah.
it's actually left to a company that actually values games, you know, then
Mhm.
maybe. But this also
Mhm.
could be like, you know, the gambit of Disney to go and destroy a company that
Why
you
not?
know is
They
actually
oppose them
doing
ideologically,
good
so-
the work.
Yeah, sink
Yeah.
them, right? Why not? Helldivers 2. This is the one I'm going to end on still. So Helldivers 2 was down for a bit, but it's making a comeback because of the changes they made, specifically to nerfs and stuff. Now, so they're at 26,000. That's not bad, considering it's like a Tuesday in the middle of the day. Usually on the
Right.
weekends or evenings, this is better. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like Arrowhead is in a really tough spot because the Sony owns the rights to their game. And just
Yep.
like I've said many times before, what I think they should do is quietly develop a game that is not owned by Sony. So
Yep.
look at what look at what From Software did. I'll give you this as my example, okay? So From Software made Demon Souls for the PlayStation 3, and it was like, you know, shitted on as a really bad game, but for some reason it developed like a cult following. So
Yeah.
reviewers in Japan didn't like it, but over time it built an audience, and then it became the talk of the town, just like amongst gamers. And it was so popular that Sony ended up bringing it to the States, and it had like a massive following, but Sony owned the rights to Demon Souls. So
Right.
From Software they wanted to keep making games, but they wanted them to be available on more platforms because they wanted to like make up their costs. If they could develop it on, you know, PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, then they would do much better. And so they couldn't do it calling it Demon Souls because Sony owned the rights. So they released Dark Souls and they put that out.
Right.
And so I think, and it's basically the same game for the most part. They just changed a few things, you know.
Right.
And they improved on it in a lot of ways, because I think Demon Souls, despite my love for it, you know, because it's sort of like the thing that started it all, it is in a lot of ways the weakest game in the entire franchise of Souls-born games made by FromSoft. So I would say that Arrowhead could, I mean, I like the lore and the world building they did for Helldivers, but if they want to get out of underneath Sony's heel, I think
Right.
that they need to like build their own thing and make it, you know, essentially available to everybody. And I bet it would, if they has the spirit the same, it would blow up. So I don't know.
Right,
Maybe,
right.
maybe that's too much to ask, but that's what I would do. So, but anyway, and Helldivers did go back to the sort of like, it was a power fantasy. I mean, it was difficult, it was challenging, but like they did so many nerfs, and that was the main thing that people didn't like. The power fantasy aspect went away, but they brought that back in spades. And so now it's way more fun to play, still challenging. And the only real issue is the limited reach of the game because of Sony shenanigans, really.
Right,
so, you
right.
know, this is
all
like
those all those countries that got delisted.
Yeah, all those countries
yeah.
that got delisted, and of course Sony doesn't seem at all like, you know, intent on correcting that mistake.
Oh no.
So,
I mean, they want people that are beholden to the Sony terms of services. And this is like also like when we talk about what's happening with the current PlayStation Slim and the PlayStation Pro. Most people, you know, like the whole bend towards like making a digital only system where you have to be beholden to the corporation. Even if you have a disk drive, even if you pay for the disk drive on these new Sony systems, you have to have an internet connection for that disk drive to function. So ultimately, you still just have a digital DRM-based kind of system that's set up. And if you aren't willing to go along with that, you can't have a system that's unplugged that just plays your games.
Yep.
It's one of the most insidious things, which is the main reason why I would tell anybody not to buy.
Well, way back
anything.
when I think I knew there was going to be a problem way back when Xbox introduced Xbox Live. I was like, this is like, that's when it started, when they introduced Xbox Live.
Yeah.
So
yep. This was always about getting people into service-based systems and subscription models.
Yeah, I mean, you could even argue that Steam started it too with its own existence. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, that's where we're at now, though, and it's probably going to be, you know, it could get worse. So anyway. So we're gonna wrap the show up there, and right on time. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, we're ready
better
to
at this thing.
Yep,
for just being 2 shows back from the hiatus. Yeah, we did all right.
Yeah, I think so. So we're gonna end the show there, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. If you like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And we will talk to you all in the next video. Long live Vivian.
Safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful week going forward. Talk to you soon.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people. And maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. Yeah! And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.